Hey guys, today we're going to be taking a look at and installing the Ford Performance off-road steering wheel for all 2005 and newer Mustangs. So this is an off-road steering wheel for race applications only. This is an Alcantara wrap steering wheel, and it's the same steering wheel that comes in the Cobra Jet Mustang. So this is an off-road steering wheel because you're going to be eliminating your horn and your airbag. Do keep in mind though that you're also going to be eliminating your steering wheel controls as well as your clocking spring in the steering wheel, which is what automatically turns off your turn signals when you're turning. This costs about $250, but you will need to pick up a hub adapter in order to get the steering wheel installed. A quick disconnect might also be a good idea too if you guys are looking for something to easily pop on and off the steering wheel. It's just a little extra plus that you guys can add along with it. So as far as the install goes, I'm going to call this one a 1 out of 3 wrenches in the difficulty meter, and we'll go ahead and show you how this installs. For this install, we used a 3/8 drive impact gun, a 3/8 drive cordless ratcheting wrench, a T20 Torx bit with an extension, a small flathead screwdriver, the provided Allen key, a 1/4-inch ratchet, 2 short extensions, an 8mm socket, and a 15/16 socket. So the first step of our install actually starts underneath the hood. Since we'll be removing the airbag on our steering wheel, we need to disconnect our battery. I have an 8mm socket here, and I'm going to go ahead and remove the negative side. And I'm just going to put a rag underneath of it just to make sure it doesn't come in contact. Like I said, since we will be removing our airbag, I want to make sure that we're as safe as possible here. So for the next part of our install, we do need to remove our airbag and our horn. For that, you guys can either use a small pick or a flathead screwdriver like I have here. So there are 2 small circles on either side of the steering wheel, and they're actually located right here. They're in the same spot on either side. This is just a cover or a cap, and what we're going to do is carefully get behind this cover or cap. There are 2 8mm bolts on either side. That's what's going to release our airbag for us. So we're going to go ahead and remove all of that. All right, so we're going to carefully get behind this cap here. Now, this is a really soft area, so it's not too difficult, and you guys can see the 8mm bolt that's back there. All right, so we're going to go ahead and remove this bolt. All right, now our airbag and our horn is ready to come out. So we're just going to wiggle it a little bit, and then we'll flip it down towards us. Now you guys can see these 2 electrical connections here. Those are our airbag connections, so we do need to remove those. So we're going to squeeze them and pull up. And now we can carefully set our airbag aside. All right guys, so now we just have our bare steering wheel, and what we're going to do next is remove this large bolt right here. You'll need a 15/16 socket for that, and you should be able to do this by hand. There's a little bit of Loctite on this bolt, so just be aware you might have some resistance at first. I'm going to go ahead and just use my cordless impact here. So our steering wheel is unbolted, but we do need to disconnect this top clip up here. So I'm just going to go ahead, press on the clip, disconnect it. And after this, we'll be able to remove the steering wheel. All right, so real quick, just before we remove our steering wheel, I'm going to give you guys a little tip. If your steering wheel hasn't been removed before, I'm not sure if ours has or not, you might want to just thread the bolt back in a little bit because you might need a little force to break it free. So ours is pretty loose and ready to come off, but just for a tip, thread the bolt back in just a little bit if you do have to use a lot of force because you don't want the steering wheel to come flying off. Like I said, in our case, it's pretty loose, so what we're going to do is just grab our steering wheel and remove it. Next, you'll remove the trim panels around the steering wheel here. So ours are pretty loose, so you guys can use a flathead screwdriver to help you. They just clip into place, so it shouldn't be too difficult to remove these. On the underside here, there are 2 T20 Torx. We'll go ahead and remove those as well. All right, so now we'll pull this trim piece down. You will need to pull it around the key over here. So we'll just leave it here for now. All right, so we have 2 T20 Torx to remove, one up here and one's gonna be down here in this corner. All right, then we have one more T20 Torx right here that we'll also have to grab. And we can pull this piece off, and we will need to disconnect our electrical connection here. All right, so there's a little teeny tab here on this electrical connection. So at this point, we can go ahead and get our trim pieces back together and start the install of our aftermarket steering wheel. Now, because our steering wheel doesn't have any of the controls that our factory steering wheel does, what we're gonna do is just tuck this electrical connection away. We won't need our clock spring anymore, that's why we removed it. So we're gonna go ahead, get our trim pieces back together and get our bolts back in place here. All right, so we'll get this tucked back into place. And then these snap together. And then, of course, we'll grab our two little T20 Torx that go back in the bottom here. All right, guys, now we're gonna install our new hub, and we are installing a Momo hub with the steering wheel. We won't be putting a quick release on, we're just gonna use this hub. So I'm just gonna line this up and wiggle it into place, and I'm going to use our factory hardware to bolt this down into place. Now, our steering wheel isn't going to live on the car, but I would recommend putting a little bit of Loctite back on this bolt before you guys bolt this down. So this hub is nice, and most hubs are nice like this, but you guys can see that this is clearly marked top here, so you know the orientation in which you need to install this. So I'm going to get my socket back on my impact gun and tighten this down. All right, now we can install our steering wheel. Like I said, we're not going to be installing our quick disconnect. We're also not going to be hooking up a horn or anything, so we won't be doing any wiring. We're just going to go ahead and bolt our steering wheel right up to the hub. So this is all supplied hardware with a supplied Allen key. And I'm just going to get all of these started so I can make sure they're lined up properly before tightening anything down too much. So obviously with a steering wheel like this, and no more electrical connections, you guys are going to be eliminating your horn, and you'll also be eliminating your airbag, so you'll have an airbag light. So at this point, we're just going to go ahead and tighten these all down. All right, guys, that's gonna wrap up this review and install. Keep in mind, you can always check this out more online right here at AmericanMuscle.com.